Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whatever the I Want podcast, where I, your host, Gaby, get to talk about whatever the I want. And today's episode is about the climb, the journey, the steps that you take towards your destination. So, around last week, Wednesday into Thursday, I was feeling like burnt out, just drained. And, I've been posting weekly vlogs onto my personal YouTube channel about the artist way, just about my journey and, documenting essentially what the process has been like for me. And I essentially was starting to realize that I was feeling burnt out. I was feeling a little discouraged and mostly just tired. And I ended up posting the vlog a day later than it was scheduled in my mind. And there's no harm in waiting and pausing and taking a break and breathing and resuming things as you need to. And so I think that that was a very important lesson for me, that it's okay if I post something a day later than I anticipated. What matters is I'm still just posting, because the last thing I want to do is revert back to, oh, well, I missed a day, so I'm just not gonna, and then you just kind of like fall off. Same thing with like working out, I took a day off, a day or two off the week before. I think it was a day, but it could have been two for all I know. And I just was feeling just like bleh, just bleh. And it's okay to not push yourself, overexert yourself to do something. And I think that that's what something that I'm like realizing is like, there's no need for overexertion, because overexertion leads to burnout. And then that leads to quitting. And so that's why it's really important to listen to your body and to take breaks as you need them. So because I'd taken however many days off the week prior, this week at the gym, I had more energy to be able to fully, like push myself. And so I was like super sore this week, and I was, proud of myself for still going regardless of how sore I felt. And I think that it has just been a learning lesson overall. And so I remember being at the gym, and I washed my hands after my workout. And so I was washing my hands, and I would look into the mirror, and I was like, I feel so tired, just tired. And like, then your brain starts going to like, do I quit? Do I just stop? What do I do from here? And out of nowhere, the song The Climb by Miley Cyrus came up into my head. I don't listen to this song often at all, like not even once a year, and it randomly came up into my head. And so whenever you have those little like light bulb moments, it is your angels, it is God, it is your higher self talking to you. And so that is why you need to just lean into it. So I left the gym, listened to The Climb on my way home, and just cried. I just like let out whatever pent up feelings I had, and I felt so calm and reassured after that. And then a series of events had happened like around this time. I also had a random calling to message somebody from college. And this person is like an acquaintance. I wouldn't describe them as a friend. It's just somebody that I've seen, here and there, and who, we're mutuals on social media. So I, out of nowhere, am like getting told in my head, like, you should reach out to this person. You should reach out to this person. You should do that. And so I ignored it for a couple of days, and it came back up into my head. And they were like, my brain was like, you should reach out. We're going to get cozy here today. And my brain was like, you should reach out. Okay. So lo and behold, I end up reaching out, and I was like, hey, haven't seen you post in so long. I was just, wanting to see how you were doing. And eventually they responded to me, and they told me like, wow, this is crazy timing, because I just lost my dad a few days ago. And my heart just like, I don't know, I felt like that was my intuition, some other being some other part of me that was telling me to reach out to this person who literally we don't have many DMs or anything like that because, we just don't talk like that. And, I shared with him like about how, he was like, I believe in, God's timing. And I was like, I do too. I feel like this must be a sign from your dad or from God, like just, well, I truthfully said, I think this is your dad wanting to see if you're okay. And, I told him about how like energy is neither created or destroyed. And these two birds, I can't tell if they're fighting, if they're flirting. I don't know what's happening. So I tell him about my nephew Grayson and how, energy is neither created or destroyed, and how, your loved ones will appear to you just in different ways now. And for me, it's through music, it's through the trees, it's through the birds singing that I feel closest to my nephew, to God, to the universe. And so it was just a very like, wow type of moment. Like, wow, I'm so happy I listened to my intuition, because had I been continuously ignoring it, I don't know what that message did for him. I don't know if it made him emotional, if it made him feel relaxed. I don't know how his brain processed it all, but from the conversation that we had, it seemed like it brought him some sense of peace. And then I guess this episode is like about a lot of synchronicities. So then I was watching an interview on Hot Ones with Aaron Paul, who is a actor from Breaking Bad. He plays Jesse. And he mentioned that, when he was first auditioning for roles, he was very upset because he would audition for roles for shows that were, it was just the pilot, and, they were hoping to get casted for, seasons, etc. And he auditioned for 2 shows back to back and essentially didn't get either role. And he was very, very depressed. He's like, I was more depressed than I should have been, is the way that he described it. So he was like, I was really depressed. I was very, like, I felt low. I felt very sad, and etc. And so he said, had he been casted for those shows, he would not have been available to audition for Breaking Bad. And he said this. He said, you never know what's waiting around the corner for you. And that like struck a chord in me. Like, it really, really resonated with me. And then last night I was drawing, right? I just wanted to draw, and so I'm drawing. And I was zooming in, so I was drawing on my iPad. So I was zooming in, and like I was drawing a sunflower, which is my favorite flower. So I'm drawing in, and I'm like adding in details, right? And I'm like, and I was getting a little frustrated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is taking way longer than I would like to. And that's why I do a lot of like, I guess like not really big drawings or not very detailed type drawings, because I'll get like bored or just like frustrated. So I'm, adding in some details, and it's taking longer than I'd expect. And I started zooming the picture out so that way I could see the whole thing. And then it really hit me to the point where I was like, I can't see the bigger picture. That's not for me to ever see. What I can see and what I can focus on is the details, is what I'm doing in the here and now. That's what my job is. My job is to focus on, fine-tuning my routines, my patterns, what I'm doing, how I'm processing things. My job is not to look at the bigger picture to see what's going to happen a day from now, a week from now, a year from now. That's not my job. That's up to God. That's up to the universe. And all that I can do is listen to those little tidbits, those little pieces of information that are telling me, hey, you should go here. Hey, you should do this. And so what I've been really practicing within this past day is, actually, I've been slowly doing it for the past couple days, but it's been really, really hitting me, like, as of yesterday and today, because it's all like practice, right? Like, you don't just rewire your brain like this. It takes effort, and it takes time to then change your mindset, to shift it and then you mold into that person, right? So, I was thinking to myself, like, the first thought that comes up into your head is typically what you should do, because then I'll be like, do I wash my hair? Do I not wash my hair? Do I use this? Do I not use this? And then I'll like get in my head and then I'll convince myself not to do something. It can be something as simple as like shaving your legs. I'll be like, oh no, I'll just do it tomorrow. And then I end up that following morning wanting to wear shorts to the gym. And then I'm like, well, I guess that's why previous Gaby was like, shave your legs today. That way, I would feel a little bit more confident going into the gym wearing shorts, which I still wear shorts no matter whether or not my legs are shaved. But, it gives you that extra little boost of confidence knowing that, like, you feel good. So I have been listening to those little pieces of information that are just like, hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do that. Hey, this is what you should eat, and just kind of leaning into whatever my first thought is, because a kid doesn't really think to themselves like, oh, I want to color. And then they're like, no, I don't want to color. I want to paint. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. A kid is normally thinking the first thing that comes to their mind, like, this is a good idea. And it's not until parents tell them, like, well, we don't really have the colors to do that, and we don't really have this, and then you start getting into your head and start thinking, like, with this logical side, which is what I'm trying to break from, is to not necessarily think logically, which might not sound like sound advice, but I mean, truthfully, like, tapping into your intuition is the best thing that you could ever do for yourself. Because had I not ever tapped into my intuition, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And I know that there's still a long ways for me to go, but I know that I'm closer to it now than I have ever been. Because I've simply taken myself seriously. I've simply been putting in the action and putting myself out there and just trying. And so I, was feeling a little burnt out. And so, this episode's supposed to air tomorrow. Filming the day before, and it's okay that there's some days where that happens. And some part of me was like, oh my gosh, like, do I take a break? Like, what's happening? Like, I don't know. And so, essentially what's scheduled right now for myself is that around July, I will be this will be season 1 of this podcast. And so I will be cutting it off there and giving myself a much, much needed break. And maybe around that time I'm like, I have energy, let's go. But I know that I need to just simply allow for things to be, because it's also not my job to force anything. And so I think that that's something that happens a lot, is people try to force engagements, force marriages, force having kids, force a lot of things. I remember I had a cousin who was trying to conceive, and she was like, we were really, really trying, the whole shebang, putting your legs up, blah, 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 like really, really, really trying, tracking everything, etc. And she's like, and when I got pregnant, she's like, the one night that I was drinking and, we just had a good time. And it's a very like silly story, I guess, but it really does show you the importance of letting go. Because whenever you put all that pressure onto literally anything, including having a kid, that's when it doesn't happen, right? That's whenever things don't manifest, is whenever you're like, I need this, I need for this to happen. And it's the moment that you let go and you're like, you know what? I really don't need it. If it wants to come, if it wants to happen, that's fine. But it's about letting go. And obviously easier said than done. But I think that that's such a huge learning lesson that I've been continuously shown, is like, you just gotta let go. You've got to let things be, because at the end of the day, it's not about whether or not you're on top of the mountain, like I saw a TikTok about that too. It's like, you don't just go hiking and you're just like, the view, and you're just like, focused strictly on the view. You stop, you take a break, you drink some water, you fuel up, you look around, you're like, wow, look at this, look at that. And so I went on a walk yesterday, and it was just so nice to just like look outside and tune in with nature. And my partner and I were talking about how much people can get so embedded into their phones, and it's tough whenever you're around like family or other people who are on their phones just as much, if not more. And so it kind of is just like, okay, well, everybody's just scrolling on TikTok in the living room, so what am I going to do? Just scroll on TikTok in the living room. So this morning, to not scroll, brought out my ukulele and I was practicing, and then, I got some family to be able to just, okay, I'm going to pick up the guitar and play for a little bit. And it's like, even if it's for 5 minutes or whatever, I know that that's time that they spent nurturing their inner child, nurturing parts of them, versus just getting stuck in the loop. And that's the last thing I ever want to do in my life again, is to get stuck in the loop. And so I'm actively trying not to be stuck in that loop of what is everybody else doing? What is everybody else wearing? Why, just like so caught up in what other people are saying and other people are thinking. And I've been there, and, I, I've gone through phases of caring so much, not caring at all, caring so little. And I think it's good to care about things, but it's important not to place so much value on them that you lose yourself. And I think that that's what's happened a lot in my life, is I've placed so much value on what other people are going to say and what other people are going to think, that I stop myself from being who I am because of that. So, yeah, it's really just about the climb. A lot of people were talking about how, like, the more, like, in this phase of you pursuing whatever it is you want to pursue, it's very easy for you to just say, like, well, I'm done. Like, I started it, it didn't work out for me, whether you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, you're like, and you quit. Like, they're saying it's the middle part where people quit. But that's the middle part where you just have to keep on going, because now you're building the habit, now you're building the discipline, now you're taking the steps to fully embody this person. But what happens is you stop yourself from fully embodying it. Instead, you revert back to who you once were. And so I think that's what is, like, the big change that's happened within me, is that I know that I don't want to go back. I know that that's not who I want to be. I don't want to be the Gaby who's stuck, the Gaby who's blocked, the Gaby who doesn't create, the Gaby who gets in her head, the Gaby who cares so much about, like, are people going to repost this? Are people going to share this? Are people going to like this? This is too much. This is too this is too that. And so I'm just, like, fully embracing the process of it all. And, people would say that it's the process. You got to fall in love with the process. And, like, I heard it, but I didn't really understand it or grasp it. And I think now, because I've been actively, trying to get there, like, I feel like I am there. And so I really truly feel like I've completely embodied this person that I've always wanted to be. And I know that I'm still continuously leveling up. And so I was looking back to videos that I posted, and so there was one where it was filming in New York, and I talk about how, like, I am a podcast host. And I definitely felt like that was where I was, like, at the cusp of, like, okay, I'm embracing this new persona, this new part of me. And so now I feel like I'm at an even different level. Like, okay, I've embraced that. I am this. And so what else is out there that I also want to embody or encompass? And, some of that's being a musician. And so I've been practicing every single day as much as I can. And, trying to learn different chords. And, like, today I was teaching myself Happy Birthday, even though I haven't even completed the first song of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Like, I have some of that, and then I started working on another song, and then I'm working on this, and then now I'm like, okay, well, how do I write my own song? And so it's just, like, it's all a learning process, but it's about just, like, not quitting or giving up on yourself. So I encourage you to listen to The Climb by Miley Cyrus, because that really helped me, I guess, like, breathe. I'm just checking my notes to see if there's anything else that I wanted to cover, but I feel like I got pretty much everything that I wanted to discuss. So yeah, just take this as your sign to just enjoy the climb, to relax, and to make the most of every single moment, and ultimately just to be as present as you can be. Sometimes I find myself, and I'm, like, in the shower, and I'm like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and then I gotta do this, and I'm just like, why am I worrying about that? That's not a moment for me to worry about right now. All that I can focus on right now is, like, washing my hair, or, like, brushing my teeth or whatever. So I'm just trying to be more mindful in every situation that I'm in, and trying to fully embrace things as they are. And so I say this time and time again: get off your phone, be present, go outside. And for all those moms who are trying to not raise their kids to be so addicted to technology, I think it's really important to take a reflection and look at yourself. How can you expect a child to not want to scroll when you're doing that. So everybody put their phones, their devices away and go outside or journal or do a puzzle or go to the library. Now that it's, summertime is coming very soon, it's important to be present and to enjoy, especially the weather. The weather is great. It's beautiful outside. It's in the 60s today. And so make the most of it. We had invited friends to go out on a walk with us, and they're like, no, we just want to play video games, which is fine. There's no issue with that. But, my partner and I were like, well, that's just not what we want to do. And we want to enjoy the weather while it's like this. And so, we've been spending time grilling and as much time outside as we can. And so, I'm not saying that there's no right or wrong way to do anything. I'm not saying playing video games is not fun or it's unhealthy. I just think everything in moderation, just keep that in mind. Do everything in moderation. And ultimately, if you are growing at any capacity and you feel your old self trying to pull you back down, like, hey, just quit. It didn't work out. Like, you tried, and, maybe you did try, but that's what a lot of entrepreneurs or anybody would say. The difference between you and them is that you quit. And like that's literally the only difference between you and any famous actor or, amazing mechanic or, whatever it is that you want to pursue. The only difference is that they did not quit on their dreams. They kept going. They wanted to be the best barber. They wanted to be the best hairdresser. They wanted to be the best nail technician, etc. So what did they do? They just kept showing up, kept trying, persisted, and never quit. And so that's what I'm doing now. It's like, it's not my job to quit. It's my job to keep showing up and to keep giving it my all with whatever that looks like that day, and taking breaks whenever I know that I need them, because the last thing I want to do is burn myself out and eventually, quit on myself. Also, a random thing that I had seen, I'm trying to see how much time I have left on the Finder. So it was Makeup by Mario. I was watching him on an interview, and he essentially said that there was, I believe it was whenever he was doing Kim Kardashian's makeup, he didn't want to go to the shoot. He was super duper sick, and he was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. I just don't think, I should do this. But in that moment, he knew that he could push himself, and so he did, which is important to note there. You have to know when to push yourself and when not to push yourself, when you can handle it, because the last thing you want to do is get injured. If you're running a marathon and you're like, I think I should, start walking now, but you're like, I'm going to keep on running, even though your body's like, no, please stop. It's important to listen to whatever, your body's telling you. So he decided to still go. He's like, I have, that little bit of energy to go. And so he went, and then he essentially said that the entire experience changed his life. And, he then recorded that YouTube video with Kim Kardashian, which apparently is what kickstarted his career. It blew him up. And so, he's like, had I not shown up for that makeup shoot, I believe he had done her makeup. And then so she was like, let's film a YouTube video to recreate it. And so that was what blew him up. But had he not shown up for that, he said, his career probably wouldn't be at where it is now. So that's why it's important to know, when to push yourself, when to, go back and recollect your energy and, go back out into the world, and when to, when you have that extra 10% that you can give, that, that little part of your brain's like, no, don't do it, just be lazy. It's a very fine line, and it's something that you have to determine ultimately for yourself. And it's something that I had struggled with for so long. I would just assume that I was just tired, but in reality, it was just me being lazy. And there's a very big difference there. So with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all so much for continuously supporting the podcast in whatever capacity that you do, whether it be listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, Apple. Now we have even more viewers on Apple. Our percentage on Apple Podcasts has grown, which is so surprising because Spotify was winning for a while. Not that there's a competition, but it's been really cool to see how much growth the podcast has had thus far. And I'm just really, really excited to see it continue to grow and our community continue to grow. And so I just want to thank you all so much for being here. And I hope that you all have a fantastic start to your week and that you all enjoy your day today and spend some time doing something for yourself. And I assure you that your future self will be thanking you for little you doing whatever you needed to do today. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.